chosen has got nothing to do with urology, but probably has something to do with every urologist. Right, does that move? Yeah, okay. So we get into medicine because we are passionate about learning the craft. As urologists, we are keen to learn surgical skills, get into higher training, become a consultant. Somewhere along the line, we become aware that finance is also a very important thing. I'll just go through what I have realized. It's more of sharing personal experience rather than recommending anything. So, what are our expectations, especially when we retire? Comfortable retirement with a good pension, state pension if the government still gives it out at that stage 20 years down the line, dividends, rental income, etc. Right, so we are part of the NHS. We do have a few benefits. When I spoke to many of the financial advisors, they said that NHS pension is still one of the best pensions available. I cannot understand how it works, nor many can, but it's supposed to be good. So what are our benefits? One is, yes, good pension. Sickness benefits, you get 6 months full pay, 6 months half pay if something were to go wrong with your health. Death in service benefits, unfortunately, if something like that happens, the family do get well looked after to a certain extent. Right, have I skipped this slide? Let's just check. No, okay. Right, there is a lot of talk on passive income. What it exactly means is that you don't work for it, but you still earn it. There are many, I'll just give you a background of how all this started. When my dad passed away, that was about 7 or 8 years ago, he had invested some money in shares. He was actually a professor of history and literature. He had no interest in money in any way. But then I inherited it. And then when I inherited the account, then I started reading more into what are stocks. And that's when I got interested in the world of finance as to what can we do to help ourselves. So sources of passive income. I came across passive income where when I inherited the account, I started reading quite a lot on relevant topics. And I read a book called Money Master the Game by Anthony Robbins. It's quite a nice book. I highly recommend reading it. In that he says, you invest money in such a way that when you are sleeping in the middle of the night, your money is working for you. So that kind of struck a chord with me. Sources of passive income, you can get income from dividends. I'll explain it further later. Rental income, if you rent a house out, things like Airbnb, if you're on holiday elsewhere and if you rent your house out on Airbnb, you're enjoying a holiday but also earning at the same time. Renting the bike, renting the car out. If you go on the internet, people are very creative. Not that I have done any of these, but I'm just mentioning. Royalty from blogs, royalty from publications are also something worth considering. So, yeah, coming to my experience, again, I just inherited my dad's account, and then I was very fortunate in the sense that my uncle and father-in-law, they were active investors, and they knew a lot about what they were doing. So I spoke to them quite a lot, but required a lot of reading to understand what we exactly deal with. So background work, lots of reading. Money Master the Game that I mentioned. There is a book called The Snowball by Warren Buffett. He is one of the greatest investors alive who just retired at the age of 94. So that was a good book to read. Rich Dad, Poor Dad literally opened my eyes to what is life and what is money. And one of the things he says is whenever you get a salary, first pay yourself and then pay the taxes. And that was an eye-opener. And when I joined medical school, many of my friends joined engineering. I spoke to one of my friends who went on to do masters in business administration, and I said, I was already 40 then. And I said, have you read Rich Dad Poor Dad? I was very impressed by it. He said, yeah, I read it when I did my masters in business long time ago, and I've been following the principles ever since. There's a book called The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham. Benjamin Graham is Warren Buffett's guru, and he is considered as one of the finest investors in history. Again, a highly recommended book, but it's quite an intense book. It's not a light read. So, coming to another book that I stumbled across, this is called The Richest Man in Babylon. When they were excavating the remains in Babylon, the civilization existed about 4,500 years ago, and they found a lot of clay tablets which were excavated, and they were shipped across to an archaeological institute in Nottingham. This was in the early 1920s. What they were expecting was fancy stories like the Aladdin and things like that, but what exactly found was quite astounding, pretty decent financial principles. And one of them, they called it the 7 cures for a lean purse. So they say, start thy purse to fattening, which basically says, start saving somewhere. And when I read into detail, what they say is, if you earn something, pay yourself 10% of that so that you start saving, and that starts increasing. The second was control thy expenditure. In my experience, what happens is, as we start earning more, we tend to spend more. And what in this book, what they say is, be accountable for every pound that you spend when you earn the money. And that's when you get real value for what you earn. Third is, make thy gold multiply. This reflects investments. I'll come to it in the next slide. And this is basically what they're saying is, don't keep the money lying there, but make it work for you. Third is, guard thy treasure from loss. This says, don't invest in things that you don't know about. And this is what Warren Buffett has always said, if I don't understand something, I don't get into it. And he has said this repeatedly when people have asked him about things like Bitcoin, where he has always shied away from it because he doesn't understand what it is. Make of thy dwelling a profitable investment. So even 5,000 years ago, they were saying, buy your own house, don't rent it. So I thought that was excellent advice in a clay tablet. The next is ensure a future income. This refers not only to pension when we are not working, also refers to things like critical illness cover, life insurance, and things like that. And lastly, increase your ability to earn. What they say is, the exact things that they say in that book is, make yourself so indispensable in your craft with the skills that you learn that you're always in demand in your workplace. Right, so that's about that book. I was really impressed with this book when I read it. Right, investment options in the UK. These are some of the things that I know of, but money is a very common topic. So I'm sure everybody in this room will have many more things to say about, but I'm just sharing what I know so far. It depends on the risk between low and high, what you're comfortable with. Low risk, there is something called National Investments and Savings. This is completely backed by the UK government. They do issue some growth bonds. These are taxable. You keep the money, you get an interest, and then you draw it out later. There is something called premium bonds. They start with as less as £25, and you can invest 50,000 per member of the family, including your children. Every month there is a lucky prize, and the prizes range between £25 to £1 million. Again, I've kept some money in it. I never earned any major prizes, but it's safe. You don't lose your principal. Fixed deposits, it's a low risk because it's backed by the government, backed by the bank, and until and unless a bank goes bust, your deposit is safe. Stocks and shares, now we are entering into a risky territory, moderate to high risk. I'll talk more about. This is where I've done a lot of reading. Buy to let rental properties, the risk is low to moderate, but you do get some passive income. Cash ISA, low risk, it's cash, it can get some interest for you. Allotment is £20,000 per adult per year and £9,000 per child in the family. This might change with the current government, but at the moment as it is, these are the limits. Stocks ISA, you can again put them in a stocks ISA. The allowance is the same, but it combines both. Your total allowance in ISA is 20, whether you put it in cash or in stocks. There is also something called the lifetime ISA. I only learned it after I turned 40, where you can put money up to 4,000 a year from the age after you turn 18 till the age of 50, and the government gives 25% more money on it. This one clearly I missed the boat, but I thought I'll just mention it. Right. Okay, what is a stock? So if you imagine a company to be a big cake, however small a slice you take, that's a stock, and what it automatically makes you is a part owner of that company, on paper at least. So what do you need for investing in stocks? You need an investment account. You obviously need some money to invest. You need a lot of patience. You need research. Research is very important. You really need to know what you're buying and what you're getting into. And the last thing is you need to understand the risks, because this is an investment where the principal is at stake. You might either make a huge profit or you might lose the whole money if your whole amount of money you invest if you're not careful. Right, so what are the investment platforms? There are a few I use. Hargreaves Lansdowne, which is a British platform based in Bristol. There are others like AJ Bell, Interactive Brokers. They all charge a fee when you buy and sell a stock, which is the brokerage. But you can have a look into individual companies and decide. These are the top 10 stock exchanges in the world, and you get a lot of updates on channels like CNBC, Bloomberg, where you can, if interested, you can just follow the news first and just get a feel of what it is. Right, how to choose stocks is a very tricky topic. What I did when I initially put my feet into it was I looked at companies which make products and I have been using them for a very long time. For more than 20 years, I've been buying shoes, clothes from Marks and Spencer. It's not gone bust, so I thought I'll put some money in it. Premier Inn, that's been there since the late 1800s. Wherever I go with my family, I stay in Premier Inn. I thought, why not buy some? It might stay. P&G, Procter & Gamble, they make a lot of toothpaste, shaving creams, etc. So I went for that. Sainsbury, my provision, B&Q, some of the examples. So why invest in stocks? You get dividends. Dividends is the profits that are distributed to the investors. It could be annual, it could be quarterly, which would be every four times a year. You get the profits. It ranges. You get low-risk companies which give dividends from about 1 to 2%. It can go up to 10 to 12%, but depends on what the company is making. Growth potential, capital appreciation. If you see an opportunity. Bonus shares, if the company does well, they give you bonus shares, which is a return on investment. Power of compounding, what studies have shown is if you hold on to a good stock for more than 7 years, that's when you start seeing the real value in it. Right, this is just an example of power of compounding. If you put £1,000 for 3 years, at the end of year one, you have 1,100, but then rather than taking the 100 out, if you reinvest the whole sum, at the end of 3 years, you would have earned a decent amount of money. But the power of compounding gets better with time. So if you own your own portfolio, you are the CEO, you are the boss of the company, you are investing in stocks. With the modern demat, you can buy mining stocks from Australia, IT stocks from India, IT stocks from the US at the touch of a button, as long as you know, as long as you've done your homework on these stocks. If it's an ISA account, you don't have any tax implications. If you buy stocks outside an ISA, you need to get some advice from your tax consultant. Sit back and take part in the journey. There are some good moments, there will be some good bad moments. Don't have an MI. You can always earn money back, but not if you lose your health. So you need some good coronaries if you're investing in it. Right, how to select stocks? Blue chips. Blue chips are stable stocks which have been there for a long, long time. Companies like AstraZeneca, Rolls-Royce, Unilever, they're all good, stable companies. Cyclical stocks, things like Jet Airways, if the season is good, travel season is good, there are some companies which go up in value. Growth, companies like Rolls-Royce, which are innovating a lot. There are always growth opportunities, and this is one of the examples I could find. Dividend stocks, there are some stocks which have been offering dividends for a long, long time. Shell, Coca-Cola, Unilever, they have been there for a long time. There is a website called Dividend Max which gives you information as to what's the reliability of the dividend and for how long have these companies been paying dividends. Right, coming to the man himself. So Berkshire Hathaway, what he owns is a holding company, and he has put a lot of money. Okay, thank you. So if you look at the value, if somebody had bought a share of Berkshire Hathaway in 1985, 40 years ago, it was selling at $1,855. Again, a big amount of money at that time. 40 years down the line, what's the value now? It's $770,000 is the current value. The same purchasing power of $1,855 converted now would be $5,500. So you can see the difference between $5,500 and $770,000. And the second stock from Berkshire Hathaway is called Class B. The difference is mainly voting rights and the affordability. This is more of a stock for the common man. If somebody had bought 29 years ago, he would have paid $20.66 in 96, which the purchasing value would equate to $42. And at the moment, the current value of Berkshire Hathaway Class B is $513. So that's multiplied several times already. So there are many people who bought Berkshire Hathaway, sold, retired comfortably because they invested very well. What have I done? I have learned a lot. I made a lot of mistakes, heartaches, lost money, things like day trading. Day trading is, unless somebody is an expert, I wouldn't recommend it. Leveraging, borrowing money, taking a loan from the bank and putting it in stocks is a strict no-no, at least for me. Spin-offs from larger companies, Halion, there are once in a while reputed companies spin off their lesser known stocks, and I thought they are a growth opportunity and bought them. It's their way of differentiating wheat from the chaff, and I did lose money in some of them, so I wouldn't touch them for a few years. Hedging on possible takeovers, especially pharma. Recently there was an announcement that Cytotech made a very good drug for cardiomyopathy, and there was a mention that Novartis was interested in takeover. So the share went up from $60 to $110, and then a couple of days later it was announced that Novartis was no longer interested. So the stock went crashing down to 30. So these are the possibilities where you can easily lose money if you're not careful. So thank you. That's been my experience so far.